even in the same way, if your child has a volleyball tournament and your other children are going there to help root them on and like involving them, be like, oh, let's make this poster for your brother during his volleyball game. And maybe when it's the other sibling who is doing like performing in a band or playing an instrument, the other siblings rallying them to support them. And again, like it's everybody's turn eventually.
Welcome back to another episode of the Parenting Potential Podcast. My name is Charles.
And I'm Monet.
And we are going to turn it over to Monet because it's her turn to come up with today's topic.
And so I've been thinking, so one of the things I think is really important for our children, I always think when I was younger, and my mom always says this about me, that I would always ask why and say how things are not fair. And I think as parents, I want us to be very intentional. Number one, just how we treat each of our children individually, but also how we treat them as like a whole group, our kids. And I always think about fairness. And so one thing that I really like that my mom did with me and my sisters is that when we were growing up, sometimes she would like go to the store and see something and she'd be like, oh, like my younger sister would really love this. And so she'd come home with that thing that she saw in the store, and it would only be for my younger sister. And me and my older sister, like we wouldn't get anything. It's just that my mom found something for her that she knew she would like, and so it worked great. But then sometimes it would be my turn and I'd get the thing, and it's not like this intentional, like, okay, this time it's Monet's turn, this time it's my other sister's turn, this time it's my other sister. But it's like things happen so organically. And I love that, number one, because I would never complain about something not being fair, of course, if I was the one who got something. But it was fair in the end, like everything came out in the wash. But also I think it really bred like a good love and relationship amongst me and my sisters where there wasn't jealousy. And I think that's one of the many reasons why, because we felt like we all got to win in our own times. And granted, there's some times that we literally all would get something, but it was like we all had our special things too. And so I know that there's some aspect of that I want to bring into my parenting. But Charles, I really just wanted us today to talk about like fairness in our parenting, and then more specific, like how we would specifically reward or treat each of our girls. So first of all, what are your thoughts on us, like sometimes just having things for, let's say, like Anaya, and maybe Leilani doesn't get something?
See, I struggle with this. I really do admire that, and I think that that's probably one of the better ways to approach it. For me, I have to get over the idea that for me, I always feel that if I do something for one, I do something for the other. And the perfect example is if I'm playing with both of them, obviously, sometimes, Anaya will jump on me. And then I see Leilani off to the side, and I get really sad because I don't want her to feel like she's missing out. And then so I'll grab Leilani and bring her in. But then Anaya feels like she's over there. You can see her starting to suck her thumb and look away. And so I actually struggle with that. And so I know it's a little bit different than buying them things, but I agree. It's just what happens when it's your attention and they're both there. I mean, you can always simultaneously play with them, but I struggle because, with Anaya, she needs a little bit more attention at times because of her diagnosis and where her development is. And right now, she's been thriving. But with Leilani, she can actually be okay for the most part, being kind of off playing for herself. But now what she's doing is she's wanting to be held and wanting to be cuddled and wanting the attention to be on her. So it's the whole fairness thing. I'm not sure how we actually break that apart and apply it to the attention, because I think that's something that's really important. I get, and I fully wholeheartedly believe in if I see something for this person, I'll buy it for them. And I'm always thinking that everyone's going to get something eventually. And so it doesn't have to be one for you, one for you. It could be 3 for you, 1 for you, 1 for you, and then 3 for you. As long as that balances out. But I struggle with that idea when it comes to attention and time being spent. Quality time, not just time, right? But quality time.
Mm-hmm. And to be honest, that was something that really struck this idea in my head. Because a couple of weeks back, we were actually talking about that when you were saying that sometimes you feel bad, just exactly what you were saying just now. And I do think even with attention and time, there is a time when maybe for whatever reason, one of our children needs that attention, time, whatever. And we always know that at the end of the day, the other child will get theirs, but you can't always give them this equal, fair amount all the time.
So let me cut you off real quick, because my question is, how do you know, like, are you tallying, or, because you can easily go into a situation where maybe you're constantly seeing things for one person, or you're seeing that this person needs attention and then kind of forget, right? Like, would you say it was actually fair, or would you say it was just that everyone got what they wanted and that made it fair, or everyone got something at some point and everyone felt that they were being thought of, so that's fair regardless of the quantity?
Yeah, right, because it's not like we had like a tally, like you said, where I was keeping track in my room, like, okay, at this point, my younger sister has had 33 things this year, and I've only had 27. Like, it's one of those things where it just happens all the time.
Yeah.
And because, like, us as parents, we love our children equally. We want the best for both of them equally. And we enjoy spending time with both of them equally. I think that even if it ends up being that it could even be it's been a rough month for Anaya, or Leilani is at this stage in her development where she just needs more. So it may not be exactly equal right now, but it will end up being. And I kind of liken it almost to marriage. Like, you know, that concept of like this 50-50, when people say like you should give 50%, the other spouse should also give 50%. I think there are seasons and there's times where maybe it's not exactly 50-50, but I think if the desire for the effort is there, I think ultimately it ends up, or it should end up being about that. And so I think...
And tune in for the marriage potential podcast.
Right.
No, that's definitely not something we'll be doing. But go ahead, sorry.
But I think like we'll truly be putting in our all and focusing on both of our children, and I think it will end up being exactly what they need, that they'll feel the love.
Boom. Yeah.
And they're not gonna say, oh,
I like that. And I know your mom's like that, right?
Yeah.
And she's just an intentional human being, and so from what I've observed, her goal is just to make individuals feel loved, and that for her kids, for sure, for them to feel loved. Now, it doesn't matter about the quantity. It matters about how you made that person feel and the intentionality behind it. So I do agree. I think I did, and I'll probably still struggle a little bit, so I have to go back to this podcast. But, you know, I'm a very black and white person, right? And sometimes I get caught with very much of being structured and dealing with numbers, right? And so I'll be, okay, I'm going to spend 30 minutes with Anaya. Okay. Then my entire day, I have only like 3 hours to spend with Monet, Anaya, and Leilani, and I want them all to feel, so 30 minutes, then 30 minutes. But maybe it's not looking at it that way. It's, what about the quality of the experience? You might get 5 minutes with Anaya, but it's like you're cackling, belly cackling, laughing, and rolling on the floor, and that's probably the best experience she had that day. And maybe with Leilani, who's really upset, might need an hour of cuddling and a couple of puffs to eat and orange slice. I don't know what it is, but yeah, you get where I'm going.
Yeah, and to be honest, if you're more of that, no, it needs to be exactly 1-for-1. We've talked before about the concept of like going on parent dates with our daughters. And I think that's a great way to evenly split.
Yes.
And even doing things like, okay, this first half of the day, it's all mommy and Anaya time and daddy and Leilani time. And then the second half of the day, we switch. Or this Saturday, you're specifically taking out Anaya and just having a great day with her. Now, today is not Leilani's day, but maybe next Saturday is Leilani's day. And they will both always get that even time. And yes, it may not be that same day or that same moment, but it all ends up happening.
Yeah, and it goes back to what you said. It's all about the intentionality and the effort behind it. I always speak in this output thing, but the output is for your kids to feel like in terms of the timing part and the quality time, to feel loved, to feel that they have your attention, to feel that during that moment, it's just you and them. And it doesn't matter how often, quote unquote, you do it or how long you do it, but maybe just how well the time is used. So maybe saying it's not the quantity, but the quality and the effort, intentionality behind that effort.
Exactly. And I think reiterating even to your child, the whole concept of things aren't always fair in that way or exactly even, because I don't know how many times my mom mentioned it to us if she really had to, but sometimes I do know she would say, like, today I found things for Monet, and so this is something I found for her, so it might not have been your turn today for my other sisters, but in the same vein, like, there were days that it was one of my sisters' turns and it wasn't my turn. And so I think it's important to discuss with your child and like explain those things out so your child does understand in those moments. Vocalizing it to them when they're the one who got all of that love, attention, or that gift, but also vocalizing it when they weren't the one. And so they're seeing, okay, yeah, that is true. Sometimes it is me.
Because that's my question. My follow-up question was that more something that was learned by seeing or was it verbalized? So I guess you're saying that well, not even guessing. You said that it was verbalized when it happened just so that you understood and learned why that was happening.
Yeah, I think probably in the beginning or maybe even sporadically sometimes it would be verbalized or just kind of mentioned like, oh, got something from Monet today. And then it might just be like, oh, okay. And it was understood like, yeah, one time it wasn't Monet, it was my other sister. And so it just became a pattern of, yeah, we know sometimes it's one of us and not all of us. And then it came to the point where it was just like understood. If something was brought for one of us, we knew like, oh, it's okay. Last time it was only brought for me. And maybe 5 times from now, it will also only be for me. And that's okay. And again, that reinforced like, we don't have this jealousy, or it's not like, why is it for her? Because like, oh, did I ask that question when it was just for me? And I think that's a great lesson to teach your kid anyway. And really thinking about everything you do as a parent, like how you can have a real important life lesson in it. Because I'm so glad we got to see that as something that like we don't always all 3 get something.
No, I like that. I mean, that's a really good lesson. I do believe that there's parents out there whose kids are maybe a little older and they've already started this whole, oh, I'm jealous of you, or this is not fair. What would you offer as advice for parents who already experience that among their children when it comes to the philosophy of what you just explained? Or just, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I think one thing, if you can get to the root of where does the jealousy breed, because sometimes it can be on the behalf of the parent. If for whatever reason, if there is some validity in why there is a jealousy, maybe there is an unfairness that exists there. If a parent, and maybe not even intentionally, maybe puts more in or vocally supports in a way one child differently than another child to the point where that is felt, I think it's figuring that out, because the thing that really made me and my sisters, I think, not have that jealousy is truly everything did, at least from my perspective, feel like in the end it was the same. And I do think when I hear from children who are jealous from their siblings, it might be because, well, my parent seems like they love them more because they pay more attention to them because they're a great athlete or they're really smart. So I think it's equally valuing what your child brings to the table and realizing that your child is different. So when we would each get our different gifts, sometimes our gifts would be based on our talents or our interests. And it was very apparent that they were all important, just they were all different. And so we all got recognition for those things in our own time. And I think as a parent, you really tapping into that this one child of mine might be really athletic, while this other one is really artistic, while this other one just really excels in their studies. And all of those are great. And so I can applaud my athletic child and not make it seem to my other children that them not being athletic is a bad thing. But maybe I will applaud their artistic abilities that my other children don't have. And it's all beautiful.
So in other words, what I'm hearing you say, and maybe I'm summarizing and paraphrasing and adding, helping your child reach their potential involves you really understanding them, right? And in understanding them, you know what it takes for them to hopefully reach that potential.
Yeah.
And so if you're maybe stuck in a situation where your kids are feeling that way, and again, we are still young parents, so we are not experts on this. Just speaking out of some logic and a little bit of wisdom from watching others. But if you have a situation like that, it's like Monet said, trying to get to the root cause of why that kid is feeling that way. Maybe in some ways there's something you haven't tapped into, or maybe it's a confidence issue in them that they have, self-confidence issue. And so, maybe it takes a therapist to step into that one, right? No, I'm being honest, because some of this stuff is complicated. That's why I'm not trying to sit here and pretend that we're going to sit here and give them the tools to fix everything. But there's a root cause to why they're feeling that way, and sometimes a family counselor can help dig that up. And again, it just helps you figure out what it's going to take to get your kids to their potential. So just going back to the idea of fair, we're talking about equitable. So what's equitable, right? So what this kid may need more of your attention, more of your time for them to get to where they need to be than another kid. So you just have to really be intentional and introspective about what it is you need to do as a parent to help them. And I think what your mom did, she knows you all so well. She knew that, hey, this is an approach that I'm going to take because I want my kids to understand that they're not always going to get things at the same time as their siblings. Just like in maybe life, you're not always going to get that promotion or get the best grades or whatever it might be, but know that it doesn't dictate dictate your self-worth. It doesn't dictate what that person or people feel about you. It's just maybe it wasn't your time. It's not your time. Does that make sense? I don't know if I
Yeah.
just made that up, but
No.
I think there's a deeper meaning behind that.
Absolutely. And I think in the same way, trying to involve all your children in each other's lives, I think is important too. So so it's not this individualistic view of, okay, it wasn't my turn of getting a gift. Fine, it was my sibling's turn. Next time it will be mine. Even in the same way, if your child has a volleyball tournament and your other children are going there to help root them on and like involving them, be like, oh, let's make this poster for your brother during his volleyball game. And maybe when it's the other sibling who is doing like performing in a band or playing an instrument, the other siblings rallying them to support them. And again, like it's everybody's turn eventually, and every child and every sibling is really important and great in their own time. And we all are celebrating it and are all happy about it when it comes for them, just like they're all happy when it comes for you.
I love it. And it reminds me of several occasions when Anaya was doing her therapies and we're cheering her on and we're encouraging Leilani to cheer her on, even when we know it's extremely hard for Anaya to push through to that next step. We're there cheering her on and just showing Leilani that this is how we support her. This is how we show love, to encourage her. And even when Leilani is eating, we're saying, oh, Leilani, you're doing a good job. Anaya, you see how well she's doing? She's trying to be like you, or, so
exactly.
it's tit for tat. But I love the idea of the cheering on, because it reminded me of what you told me about your sisters is when y'all got your gifts, the other person, or the other two sisters are so excited for the gift that you got. And I think about that video when Janae got the gift for Christmas and you were filming, but you were more excited than she was. Right? So this is a good topic, and it's something that we kind of had spoken about a long, long time ago, but never really fleshed it out, right? It was just kind of like, oh, you told me your mom does that. I'm like, oh, I like that idea.
Yeah.
But then we kind of just left it alone.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's important because, like you said, when siblings are older, sometimes it does feel like, oh man, like there is some jealousy there, or the parent might feel like they always have to give all their kids something or none of them anything. And I think you can, just like anybody else in this world, like they are siblings, but they're all individuals, and fostering them each as individuals. Like sometimes each of you individually gets something, but we all are there for each other, love each other, and support each other in those things. And I think as parents, one of the greatest gifts is when your children get along. I think that allows you to be better parents to all of them. And it's easier, I think, to parent when the siblings get along versus when there's chaos and strife among siblings. So something I think really important and can create better cohesiveness and harmony in your households, because I really, truly think it did in mine.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to even looking out for each other,
Yeah.
Now, back in the day growing up, looking out was, oh, if you touch my sibling, then you touch all of us. You know what I mean? We're going to get you. But no, it doesn't have to be like physical, right? I'm not condoning that at all. But the idea is that you look out for each other and you cheer each other on. And when one person hurts, you all hurt. When one person wins, you all win. And so that's this really good message, I think, that it's about developing that spirit within your children of being supportive. What else?
Loving, just acknowledging of each other. And I think when there's that feeling, nobody's going to question fairness.
Drop the mic on that one.
That's right.
Any parting words, though?
So yeah, I would just encourage everyone to really just think about each of your individual kids as individuals, because sometimes as parents I think you lump together, these are my kids, but really they're individuals, and see what do they each individually really excel at, what do they each individually really like, and try to find something where you can celebrate all those things and recognize them in their own specific times, whether it is taking each of your individual children on parent-child date day, or if the next time you see something at the store that you look at it and say, oh, my son would really love this, or this would be perfect for my daughter. Hey, be afraid to get that for them. And just knowing that, hey, I'm being mindful of the other things that my other children really like, and one day I'll get something for them when I see that too.
And verbalize it though.
And verbalize, yes.
Not all the time, but at least initially, so they know.
So they understand. But yeah, don't be afraid and breathe that good energy, because your children will hopefully appreciate that and also have that same energy too.
Good stuff, Dr. Mo. Good stuff. And so for those of you who are in Florida, if you have availability, come out to the Family Cafe. You can go online, Google it, or whatever. But we'll be presenting at that conference, really giving families who new diagnosis, old diagnosis, some really, really good lessons, practical lessons that we've learned over our short experiences as, parents of a special needs child, just so that they can walk away feeling like, hey, there's some more tools in my tool belt, my toolkit that I could actually use to make myself a better parent and help my child reach their potential. So we're excited for that. So that'll be next week.
Yeah, Sunday, June 10th, Saturday is when we are specifically speaking.
Orlando, Florida.
Yes, but it's an annual thing too. So if you're not in Florida, hopefully wherever you are, there are other resources like that too for you to definitely, just whenever they are, take advantage of. In the meantime, I hope you are enjoying our podcast and getting some great pearls from our discussions as well. We love talking, and we are so happy to hear whenever you guys are listening.
Until next time, we love you. We appreciate you. If you liked this episode and haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Share this with a friend. Share it with a family member, a colleague, anyone who you feel would benefit from it. And we hope to, hopefully y'all can come out, but we hope to bring you some more content soon.
That's right. Till next time.
Peace.
Love ya.